Hello, my name is Bobby Perry. This is episode 116 of BPerryFilms Podcast. In today's episode, I'll be talking about the art of raising your prices. I know this can be a controversial topic and it can be overwhelming for many of you, and I'll be speaking from a service-based business standpoint because I feel like many of us are undervalued, whether we're cosmetologists, whether we're contractors, whether we're photographers, consultants, podcasters, and course creators. And I think it's important for us to know our worth and understanding that there is a clientele for all of us. I know when I started my business, I started with the podcast. Initially, it was free, and then I started charging people. Everybody who has participated in a webinar has paid. But I started at a small fee, and then I started adding webinars for people to get more in-depth information what wasn't shared on the podcast. And then after that, I started doing one-on-one coaching. And I thought, okay, let me start this at $60, just early entry. And I noticed that I was getting a lot of traffic, but I felt like the return on investment wasn't what I wanted to be. People would ask questions regarding the podcast. How do I start a podcast? I let people know it's a lot of research, it's a lot of writing, it's a lot of due diligence, a lot of consistency. And people didn't take it lightly. They thought, oh, I have all these creative ideas. It's just going to be go, 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 go. And then I end up quitting within the first 3 to 4 episodes. And that was a letdown to me because I felt like people weren't really receptive of the information that I was providing. Letting you know that it will be tough. You need to have a game plan. You need to have an idea of how to execute and deliver. You need to have a solid foundation. And people weren't listening to that. And then as soon as I started raising up my prices, people started to listen. People started doing better. The engagement was a lot more success. And I started working with brands that range from startups to corporations. I work with businesses that are just starting out in their industry, whether it's finance, marketing, film, photography, videography, and much more. And seeing how they started from day one to months later, years later, and we all keep in contact. And I think it's important for me to make sure that I feel value from an even exchange standpoint. So I wrote down some notes to kind of outline how this video will go. So we'll start with, why do people tend to not value service-based businesses? So people assume that your costs are low. People think you're a service-based business, you can start up a business for free, things don't cost any money, but that's a lie. You need a station to host your work, you need access to Wi-Fi, you need tools, resources, like if you're in cosmetology, you need shares, you need clippers, you need styling products, you need shampoos, conditioners, treatments, rice water, edge control, heat protectants, all those different things, clippers. All those things are necessary for you to sustain your business, for you to keep business going, for you to build up your clientele, because these other tools are necessary. You are a consultant. You need access to a computer. You need access to Wi-Fi. You need to have software. You need to have documentation. You need to have NDAs, your time and effort. All that stuff has to be cost effective to you because you have to pay everything monthly, weekly, or however often that you pay for your equipment. People assume that you have to take all clientele. That is not true. If you price too low, you're gonna have to work a lot. You're gonna have to work a lot harder because to equal up that goal that you want, like say if you were you know that you need $1,000 or $2,000 by the end of the month. You value your service at $60 each. It's gonna take you a lot more clients to make that if you didn't value your product at $150. You know, just work at your own pace. If people start drifting off and going somewhere else that's more affordable for them, let them leave because they're not going to get as much value as they are if they were to work with you. So you want to make sure that you stay 10 toes on what you deliver in your offering and don't even try to negotiate. It's either you're going to pay those prices or you're just going to leave. Simple as that. There has to be no other communication than that. No trying to work things out. No trying to bring it down $10, $20 because they'll always go lower and lower and lower. And every time when they come, they're going to be like, remember when you gave it to me for that price? Remember when you godfathered me in? Let them know that prices have to raise up because the cost of living is going up, the cost of your equipment is going up, the cost of software is going up. And I can speak for first example. Like one of the softwares that I use to run my business went up by $200 for the year. And that's a lot of money. And, you know, when you're paying for things yearly, you save a lot more than if you're paying monthly. So I think that's the bright side, but that's still $200 extra that have to work up every year. And that's just one service. People don't know your worth. When you're first starting out, yes, you might be trying to be in an affordable market, but you have to understand what the market clientele is. Like in my trichology class, we had a homework assignment where we had to go to different salons, different barbershops, and see what the price of model is in our region. Some, like in Massachusetts, most barbershops start at $40. I have seen haircuts go up to $100. And it depends on how premium the service is. Maybe you get a full ensuite experience. Maybe you get pampered. Maybe you get a shampoo. Maybe you get cleansed. Maybe you get a steam treatment. All these things, you have to make sure that you read the menus. So same thing with your services, same thing with everything that I'm doing with my business. I let people know the clear objective of what they're getting through. Like when you're attending my webinar, like the one that I just did, like the one I did today, I let people know you're going to be learning about the history of writing, why it is necessary, how to adapt to AI, and how to create a career to future-proof yourself from being a part of a recession. Because it's so quick for service-based businesses to go out of business, and they're not usually sustainable for the long term. Then you have to ask yourself the question, why should you raise your prices? So I thought of time. You know that you're probably going to start out your business part-time, even though that you work in 24 hours in your head and physically when you're not at your full-time job or your other part-time job or raising your family, you're working on your business, and you know that you have to generate this money. You have to know where money's coming in and out. You need to know your expenses coming in and out. There's no time for any hiccups because the first 2 to 3 years are your fundamental years of you making your trial and error. Everything counts. Every interaction that you make with people counts. So you want to make sure that you start with value over profit and then add the profit to your value. Knowledge. You want to let people know that you are the best person that they can work with. I know when I'm working with my clients, I meet them where they are. You're struggling with this issue? Let me see if I can assist you with this. Okay, let's go over an outline of a game plan. Okay, I think I can situate you within 3 sessions. If we need more time, we can add an additional session, but this is going to be the extra fee. Okay, here's your homework assignment. We'll meet back in another 2 or 3 weeks. Let's look at your analytics. Let's see how you have processed the information. Let's see what you have struggled with. Meet them where they are. Communicate, articulate your thoughts. Equipment. Like I said, software is always increasing. Tools is going up. Rent is always going up. You might go from working in a team to being in a solo act, or you might be a solo act going into building a team. Everything will cost you money. Every time when you migrate, move, you got to rebuild your clientele all over again because not all these people know who you are. And you have to take into consideration the cost of training and onboarding and offboarding. Equipment. Like I said, tools cost money. There's no such thing as doing things for free. Everything costs money. Your time is money. Your knowledge is money. Everything about you is money. The clothes you wear, the glasses you wear, the contacts, your augmentations. All these things cost money regarding your appearance. So keep it up and take your time with it. How to raise your prices. When it comes to inflation, like I said, all my softwares have raised up, and I'm trying to consolidate the best way I can. So the best way that I can consolidate is see what services that I need most, prioritize what is most effective to me, and what I can streamline and make this process more simpler for me. Like I use a platform called Honeybooks. Instead of me going directly to individuals, I go directly to businesses, and people can buy subscriptions to my courses. And there's a fee of how many licenses that they would have to purchase at once. And it just streamlines everything like that. Or if I need to come in to film a project or work on a podcast episode, they fill out NDAs, contracts, understand their rights, my rights, and how the material can be shared or used, and all those good things. Because if you don't have everything in writing, people can do and abuse everything that you have worked hard for, and people can steal information from you, and you don't want to lose any money, because money is very important. Time versus demand. When you have raised up your prices to a significant amount, like how we went from the $60 to the $150, you require less people. But you want to make sure that your expenses either stay the same or try to get as low as possible. If your prices start increasing, your expenses keep increasing, you need to continue to raise up your prices. But you always want to make sure that you raise your prices at least like 20, or at least by 10 or 20% on whatever that you're doing. And then you have to keep in consideration of tips and all those good things if you accept those. And also be aware that there are grant opportunities, there's social gatherings that you can be a part of to build up your clientele and your revenue sources. Exclusivity is another highlight that I would like to recommend, is that, like I told you, prices of barbershops in my area ranging from $40 to $100. Let me tell you, there are people that will not touch the $40 mark, so they'll go to a cheaper barber. But is the experience different? Yes, it is. They might be timely, they might be more efficient, the cleanliness, the tools that they're using, the products that they're using, so many different things. When you're thinking about your business, you have to think, okay, I'm using Calendly. This is very cost efficient compared to something like Honeybooks. So when I'm using Calendly, I can price my prices low, but since I'm using Honeybooks, which is more premium and more expensive, I know I need to price it up, but not price gouge, but at least 50% more than what I would be charging on Calendly to make up those costs. So I hope that you can take this all into consideration when it comes to raising of your prices. I do not have a chart or anything to go over any numbers, but you can do this all in your head. So I recommend writing down all your products, all your services, do a budget sheet of your assets coming in. That means all the incomes that you have, revenue streams regarding your business, or your incoming salary if you're going to add that to the business as well. And then do a list of your expenses. What is reoccurring? What is a one-time off? What is an educational expense? Some of the things you can write off. Make sure that you have a resource like QuickBooks. I have some affiliate links down in the description box for any of the resources that I did mention. Honeybooks and also QuickBooks. I recommend those two tools for your business. And make sure that you find an avenue that works best for you. Because, like I said, if you price too low, people are going to only value you as that cheap product. If you price yourself at entry level to premium, people will expect more and you will deliver more. But if you present yourself at a premium level and your work quality isn't up to that par, people are going to give you bad reviews, and then eventually you're going to go out of business, or you're going to have to drop down your prices. So I recommend gradually moving up instead of price gouging, because it makes a difference. So I hope you all enjoy this video on the art of raising your prices. Hopefully I answered many of your questions that you may have regarding raising prices, knowing your worth, and delivering and executing whatever your offer is. And I'll see you in the next video. You can follow me on YouTube and Substack, BPerryFilms Experience, TikTok and Instagram, BPerryFilms, and LinkedIn, Bobby L. Perry, and I'll see you in the next one.